to Primitive Organic Garden today. Most years I do a video right before the first frost. I usually also do a video the morning after the first frost, or at least the first freeze, showing all the destruction and death. But this year's been depressing enough, so I'm not going to do a full freeze death garden tour this year. But I did want to do a quick before and after of some of my favorite plots in the garden. This here was sweet potatoes and Malabar spinach for most of the summer. You can see the freeze has killed most of that. So I'm going to clean all this up. Got a couple machetes, weed whacker, 2 good rakes, a hula hoe. I think the name's hilarious. It's a stirrup hoe. I bought it from like a hippie nursery and they called it a hula hoe. It's a stirrup hoe. And my regular hoe. And hopefully I'll be able to clean this up. You can see how gross it looks now. And in about 30 minutes it's going to look really nice, and it'll be extremely fertile ground for planting winter crops, specifically things that need well prepared soil like spinach and maybe some carrots or something like that. I got my trusty Midwest rake here. I love this thing. One of the best garden tools I've ever purchased. I don't really have an official compost pile, so I'm probably just gonna rake all of this to the edges, and it's kind of gonna be mulch in the pathways. Not particularly ideal, but I don't know, maybe I'll grab some chicken wire or something and build me a quick little compost bin and put all this in there, but we'll see. The main goal is just to get all of this dead stuff out of here and expose the soil underneath, maybe apply a thin layer of manure on top and start planting. Also probably going to chop down some of this comfrey and mix that in with the soil. So this is about the halfway point. I've gotten most of the heavy vegetation out of here. You can see I was careful to not whack down the avocado trees. Avocado tree. I also left some of the comfrey, but I did whack down a decent portion of this bed here. Now I'm just gonna lightly till the top layer with the stirrup hoe and get all these knotty roots out of here. Apply a thin layer of chicken manure, smooth everything out, rake all the debris to the aisles, and this will look real pretty in a minute. This was an interesting surprise because 2 years ago I tossed an orange grocery store sweet potato in the compost pile, and this doesn't look like what I tossed in the compost pile 2 years ago. But anyway, these were also volunteer, so any yield is good yield. One of the unexpected, I guess, surprises is that sunchokes managed to somehow invade here, and this ground that I thought I was going to be able to plant like spinach and carrots in is apparently just full of sunchoke roots. So yeah, one thing about when you just have like a permaculture food jungle, you get a lot of food, you just don't necessarily always get what you want. I didn't plant these here. I don't particularly want these here, but it is food. Once you have sunchokes in the ground, you're not going to get rid of them. The idea that you can find every single tuber or root under the ground is just implausible. This was just one tiny plant. It was a small enough plant that I didn't even notice it was in here this summer when it was surrounded by sweet potatoes and Malabar and other things. It was basically a weed that I missed, and now I have this. Why you should be very careful choosing the size of a pot for a fruit tree that is frost sensitive. I want to say this is a 30-gallon, maybe it's a 25-gallon pot. When that soil is wet, this is unbelievably difficult to move. I probably should just prune this so that I can get it in and out of the house a little easier. but it's still got fruit on it, so we'll see. This is going to be fun to get down the stairs. Welcome back to Primitive Organic Garden today. It's the middle of December. I think it's the 13th perhaps, maybe the 12th. Now is about the perfect time of the year to be planting spinach, at least where I'm at. I was looking at all these different seed packets, and a lot of them say plant spinach in February and March, and plant again in August and September. August and September is a little bit early. The spinach that I started sowing in August and September got nuked by the heat. February to March is a little bit late, in my opinion, because spinach takes a long time to germinate and a very long time to grow. And sometimes we have triple-digit temperatures by May. So if you're planting spinach in March, you really only get 1 month of harvest before it just gets absolutely destroyed by the heat and or goes to flower and seed early. So I did a test spinach bed. I also put some onions and cilantro in here, wanted to hedge my bets. The spinach seed that I put in here was 3 years old, and I wasn't sure if it was going to germinate. So this was basically a test. I put the 3-year-old spinach seeds in here, and I put a little bit of cilantro and onion that I knew would come up just in case the spinach didn't. I built this out of a pallet, I guess the middle of November, maybe the end of November toward Thanksgiving. It was just a pallet that was sitting on the road. I took the pallet apart, put it back together. I was kind of short on funds at the time, so I filled it pretty much with just topsoil. The top layer is a little bit of potting mix, but most of it's topsoil. Because there's so much topsoil in here, you can see there's a lot of little weeds that are popping up. But every time I come in here to harvest spinach, I just pull them. So yeah, I mean, it's probably about 1/3 spinach, 1/3 onions, and 1/3 cilantro. I knew the cilantro and the onions would come up, so if the 3-year-old spinach didn't germinate, at least I would still have other things in here, so it wouldn't be a waste of space. But yeah, so this is just one variety of spinach. This one from 3 years ago is Bloomsdale. Bloomsdale is an old standard spinach variety that you're probably familiar with. But I had a lot of extra Bloomsdale seed from 3 years ago, and I figured if the Bloomsdale comes up, then I'll know that it's the right conditions in terms of weather and temperature and all that, that I can go ahead and plant the rest of my spinach varieties. The Bloomsdale spinach has been around a very long time. It's the standard heirloom garden spinach, very mild, tender. It's not the fastest growing. It's close to about 50 days, but it's just a good standard spinach. So yeah, Bloomsdale, long-standing. Again, these seeds were 3 years old, so the fact that I got any germination was great. Like I said, this was planted the end of November, and now that I know that we have good weather for spinach, it's now cold enough for it to actually do well. I'm going to go ahead and plant my spinach variety trial for the year, which is going to be in a much larger bed with much nicer soil than topsoil. So yeah, we'll go check out the spinach variety trial we're about to seed. I always direct sow spinach. I've never even attempted to transplant spinach. I don't think that's a thing. I think it's pretty much always direct sown, whether it's commercial production for cans like Popeye or commercial production for salad greens. I'm pretty sure it's always direct seeded. Direct seeding spinach, you got to watch your temperatures. If you're still having days that are above 60 and 70, it's probably not going to germinate. We occasionally get some days in the winter that are 80, but as long as your night times are down in the 30s and 40s, it seems to germinate pretty well. It does not like poor soils. It needs to have very well manicured soil, light, fluffy, loose, aerated, very well prepared. Don't stick spinach in clay. Don't stick it in straight sand. It needs well prepared soil. I usually put down a little bit of black cow underneath and then some mushroom compost on top. Mushroom compost is even a finer media than like potting mix. I've had plenty of success getting spinach to germinate in a good potting mix. but the mushroom compost, like I said, is even finer. It's almost the consistency and texture of like coffee grounds. It's very, very lightweight. Seems to be a good trick for spinach. You don't have to have a lot. You know, if you got soil that's heavy clay, or soil that's a lot of sand, or soil that's full of rocks and chunks and roots, just a little light layer of mushroom compost on top that's maybe half an inch deep, 4 centimeters, something like that, 3 centimeters. Just a light layer of mushroom compost seems to make a huge difference. This is going to be the bed where I plant the spinach variety trial. During the summer, this was supposed to be bell peppers, but volunteer mint and volunteer sunchokes, Jerusalem artichokes, pretty much took over and dominated this bed. I'm a little bit nervous about planting spinach here because there's still a lot of roots from mint in here, and mint thrives in the winter. The mint is extremely invasive and outcompetes everything near it. I tried to get all the mint roots out of here, but inevitably after a rain or two, I'm probably going to see some mint popping up. But this is a really nice bed in terms of soil. It's had beans and peas in it quite a few times. There's a lot of rich bacteria and organic matter in the soil. I amended it with ashes from the grill, put down cow manure, put down the mushroom compost. It's also the bed that is in direct view of the kitchen window, so I can look out the window every morning and keep a very close eye on the spinach. And unlike my summer garden, which is just a huge jungle mess, unsightly food forest, my winter gardens tend to be nice and neat and clean, like little English gardens, very well manicured, things planted in straight rows with labels. So I kind of go from one extreme to the other. You visit in the summer and you're basically tripping over food, and it's a huge just jungle that looks awful. And in the winter, it's all nice and neat and clean. So the varieties of spinach that I was able to get my hands on this year, not as many varieties as I would like. I think I only have 9 this year. I got this cool F1 that is called Red Kitten. This says 2016, but I planted this at my other garden about a month ago and got perfectly fine germination. I did overseed, but I got like half a pound of it, so I guess it doesn't really matter. I think this is 10,000 seeds here. Anyway, this is an interesting spinach. The veins and the leaves are like a dark burgundy color. I haven't really noticed a whole lot of differences in how it tastes. The texture is not quite as delicate and tender as some varieties, but it seems to grow really quickly. Like it says 23 days. That's incredible. So yeah, I'm going to do 2 rows of this because I have so much of it. I also have this random spinach from the farm store, and I have no idea what variety it is. I'm assuming it's probably some old heirloom like Bloomsdale, but I don't know. At the farm store, it was in a mason jar, and it just said spinach, so we'll see. Also got this variety here called Giant Noble, which I have grown before. This says 43 days to harvest. Flat and smooth, vigorous plants, slow to bolt, smooth dark green leaves, excellent flavor. So I'm going to do a row of that. Here's one I have not grown before, Matador. 47 days to harvest, a little bit longer. Excellent taste and smooth. So both of these now say excellent taste and smooth, and dark green. Not really sure how this is different from the Giant Noble. They both say smooth, dark green, and excellent taste. This one also mentions soufflés and stuffing and cooked greens. Okay. Next one is going to be some unspecified variety from Asia. I think pretty much all spinaches are from Western Europe / Eastern Asia, but these leaves look gigantic. 60 days to harvest. So the range we have is from as few as 23 to as many as 60. This particular spinach says an early variety, which doesn't seem to make sense. If it says 60 days to harvest, how is it an early variety when other varieties are 23 days to harvest? Not really sure why that says that. 12 inches tall. That's a little tall for a spinach plant, especially pre-flowering. Great for stir fries or salads. Okay. We talked about the Bloomsdale. that I have an old seed pack from, and I also have the newer seed from the farm store, which I suspect is probably Bloomsdale, but it was unlabeled, so I don't know. Bloomsdale is apparently mild, tender, and delicious. Said old heirloom, pretty familiar with this one, kind of a standard. The next one is going to be Corenta, which is also a hybrid. 45 days. Flat and smooth, vigorous plants, slow to bolt, smooth, dark green leaves, excellent flavor. These all kind of sound pretty similar. America spinach. 50 days to harvest. Outstanding flavor, Savoy leafed, curly leaves. Suitable for fall and spring. Drought and heat tolerant and compact. Very cool, excited about that one. Another unspecified variety here. 30 days to harvest, that seems pretty quick. Baby leaf. Small tender semi-Savoy leaves, delicious nutty flavor, easy to grow. All right, I love how they say after danger of frost. Spinach is probably the most frost tolerant crop I know of. So yeah, 8 or 9 different varieties, and the 2 varieties that I have a ton of seed for are gonna get 2 rows apiece. It'll be interesting to see the differences in days to germination, also growth rates. I'm really interested to see how different varieties are influenced by different insect and disease pressures. Maybe some of these will be resistant to diseases. Maybe some will get eaten by bugs and others won't. I think the one I'm most excited about eating is probably the baby leaf. But the America looks pretty good too. To be honest, the Asian round leaf does not look great for salads, but maybe for cooking. What's this one here? Corenta also probably looks like a variety I'd rather cook. I don't eat a whole lot of vegetables raw, but I feel like the Matador, the America, the Giant Noble, and the baby leaf I could eat raw. The rest of them I'd probably cook. But yeah, so I'm gonna go ahead and make some rows here. You can see it's already topped with mushroom compost, and we'll get to seeding.